in Auroville, which represents a road back to nature. So I started this farm in January '96. I've been in Auroville for nearly 30 years now, and I'm from England. My name is Krishna. I was studying in the J. Krishnamurti school in England. Some of you may know Jiddu Krishnamurti. So a very privileged education where we were not pushed to become anything. We push our kids, to do this and do that, with a good intention. But we don't know what's good for our kids. If we knew, we would have not created the chaos that we created in the world today, But still we push them and make them go and study in America, and all the good brains going to America, So that school I was lucky, we weren't pushed. So I was doing jazz guitar and theater, and I was helping run the vegetable garden, but I was also studying genetic engineering and doing art, and it was a very eclectic sort of education. The guy who ran the vegetable garden, he had lived in Auroville in the 70s and the 80s. So he started to tell me about Auroville and this, this place where people build their own house and they live simply and growing their own food. And I sort of saw this possibility of me living close to nature in India and growing my food, living in a community. And that was a big appeal for me. I felt like my Tamil inna sollang talavidhi, I had that sense that's my destiny. So I came here when I was 19, and it was around that time that I discovered my guru, if you like, my inspiration for my life. Is a Japanese farmer called Masanobu Fukuoka. And everything I'm going to show you today relates back to the work of Fukuoka. Fukuoka wrote a very important book called The One Straw Revolution. So if you have a chance to read this book, The One Straw Revolution, it's really the foundation, you can say, of modern alternative approach to understanding agriculture. Now, Fukuoka, I had a chance to meet him in Vandana Shiva's farm in Dehradun about nearly 20 years ago now. And he was a short little guy. He had a white beard, indigo kimono, wooden chapels, and he didn't talk very much. He was already 92. But one thing he did say to us, he said, only a fool will understand his relationship with Mother Nature. It's quite a statement, no? The fool will understand his relationship with nature. I mean, if you take sort of the great minds, Elon Musk, he's put a car in space, no? I mean, I didn't see it myself, but I heard that's like amazing, to put a car in space. And then there's AI technology and nano this and microchips in your brain and all these things that people are working on. But there's no water left in Chennai. There's 21 metropolises that are considered dry in India now. So despite all this great achievement of mankind, the most fundamental thing we need, water, has been compromised. Food, on a nutritional level, there's such an erosion of well-being. There's over 200,000 edible plants on the planet, but if you look at what the main foods we eat all over the world, soya, rice, maize and wheat. So it's a sort of a myopic, it's like a shrinking of biodiversity. Vanakkam. And then you see on the climate change, the climate change, we don't need to be told about that. It's in our face all the time. There's intense weather patterns and the cyclones, the flooding, all of these type of things, and the global warming, the crazy rains at times, and then droughts, and then you see the economic, problems that we're faced with. There's 90% of the resources on the planet are held in the hands of 1% of the population. So you see, there's really an all-round erosion of well-being that man has inflicted upon himself. He's dug this big hole, putting money up there as the sole aim. He's climbed in the hole and he can't get out of it, and destroying our planet at the same time. If you look at agriculture, you can see that it's the industrialization of agriculture is probably one of the main causes of global warming. And all of this erosion of well-being you can relate it back to that man has lost his relationship with nature. And that a reflection of that is not knowing where your food comes from. And that's being dependent on industrialized agriculture. I mean, if you take something like a potato, like everybody here probably eats potatoes. And yet potatoes don't grow here. So you're like, well, hang on, if they don't grow here, and we're living in a place where the language is 40,000 years old, it's the oldest language in the world, Tamil. And we have, the Sangam period poetry, we have the Siddha tradition, the Ayurveda, the Carnatic music, the Bharatanatyam, the temples that architects don't know how to build anymore. A culture is like a banyan tree, and you ask yourself, well, how did that culture emerge? Well, people knew where their food came from. Potatoes was not part of that diet. Obviously, it couldn't grow here. You ask any of your Tamilians, they will tell, no, we didn't eat potatoes because they didn't grow here. So that's, I think that's a very stark and very obvious thing. So we see the most obvious foods that we eat, if they don't even grow here, what about the wheat and the olive oil and the pastas and the pizzas and the burgers and all this the Maggi noodles, all this industrialized food? So this very bleak picture I'm painting you is not to make us depressed, but it's to be realistic. You just have to look at what you ate for dinner, what you ate for breakfast, and look, well, do I know where it came from? No, that's the reality. So the antithesis of this, the solution to this erosion of our well-being is to understand what foods do grow around us, and then those foods naturally are going to be the foods that are part of a culture. In Tamil Nadu, we are very, very fortunate that the culture is still alive. People have a sense of a cultural identity. If you go in England and you see our culture, there is no culture. Beer and football is our culture, and people won't look at each other in the eye. There's a fragmentation in the society, and I personally feel that fragmentation has emerged because there's no collective value. You ask a Tamilian, banana flower, varapu, they'll go, yeah, varapu, that's our number kalacharam, that's our culture. And banana stem, yeah, and ponangani, yeah, and moratakan, yeah. They might not all eat it anymore, but still it's there somewhat in the consciousness. And I believe that thread of cultural nutritional heritage is what creates a cultural identity. So in England, you want strawberries and it's Christmas and it's snowing, you get strawberries, you get what you want, because the coin defines the nutritional profile of a society, and the coin, is the ruling force, not one's relationship to where the food comes from. It's something again that we've created like a myth, organic farming. It's again money, marketing, So local foods is really the real subject here. Local foods, honoring the foods that grow around us, is the road back to nature. That is our cultural redemption. That's what the subject is today, cultural redemption, a reclamation of a cultural nutritional heritage. So if we start looking at local foods, we see they have particular characteristics. The first characteristic is it grows easy. Let's take muringa kire. Drumstick, who I don't know how most people, looks like a lot of Tamilians, everyone Tamilian, so the muringa kire, drumstick. You break off a stick, you plug in the ground, it germinates very, very easily. So if you do that or I do that, neither of us are experts. It's a cultural knowledge, it's a common knowledge. Means it will grow everywhere. If it grows everywhere, it's growing in abundance. So something that grows in abundance means it's available for everyone, from the beggar to the king. They can both have muringa kire, but only rich people can have pizza. So the pizza, the industrialized food, actually is creating the fragmentation in the society. That which grows easily, that you have a relationship with, to the earth, and it's actually the best food. The other characteristics are that it has very high medicinal and nutritional value. It's economically obviously valid and viable, and it doesn't require chemicals, doesn't require machinery, no expertise to grow it, even grows with less water. And then also these local foods, they often have different parts that you can use. The classic example for any Tamilian will be the varapu, the banana flower, the varatande, the stem, and the banana, and even the banana leaves. But in the case of drumstick, it's the same. You have the kire, you have the flower, the spinach, you have the flour, you even have the seed. The other day a friend, she gave us the seed and we chewed it, it was a bit bitter. And then she gave lemon juice with no sugar, and we drank it. It was completely sweet, you know, it's like something very special. And then they even have the resin from the bark, the trunk of the banana, of the drumstick, which is used. I don't know how to do it, but I know it has a value. So you see, honoring local foods, honoring our culture, honoring our birthright, which is a relationship to where our food comes from, is the redemption that we need on this planet now. And we're in Tamil Nadu, so we're talking about here. If we were in Peru, the same, or Russia or Japan, the same narrative would be valid. So I like to take you a little bit around the farm, and I'll show you some of this philosophy in action, actually how we're actually living with that. Okay, so come this way.